Right, I'm ready to start with the lesson plan building for the next lesson, please. Sub lesson.
We will treat the role of marketing as the controlled teaching section. We will build one section level lesson build plan before any H5P, slide, audio, or imagery work begins. Planning stage 1, learner need, teaching section identity, academy stage, foundation stage, course, foundation, certificate in digital marketing, module, marketing fundamentals, main lesson, marketing and selling, teaching section, the role of marketing. Reference FND M01L02S01. Position first of 3 teaching sections. Current status planning. Proposed core learning direction. The learner needs to understand that marketing has a wider role than making a sale. Marketing helps the business understand customers and the market, shape and present an offer that may meet customer needs, communicate why that offer may be useful, create interest, and support wider business goals. Within this main lesson, the new point is that marketing often prepares the conditions in which selling can take place. Marketing and selling are connected, but they are not the same activity. Connection with prior learning. The completed What Marketing Does lesson already taught the wider purpose of marketing. This section should retrieve that idea briefly, then place it into a new comparison context. It should not reteach the previous lesson's 4 marketing jobs in full. Why the learner needs this section. A foundation learner may think, open quote, marketing is advertising something so that a salesperson can sell it. Close quote. That view is too narrow. It can cause the learner to confuse customer research, offer decisions, communication, lead generation, and direct sales conversations as one activity. This section should give the learner a clear understanding of the marketing side before the later teaching introduces the role of selling. Likely misconception. Marketing and selling are 2 names for the same job. The correction should be, marketing works across a wider part of the customer and business journey. Selling focuses more directly on helping a customer make a purchase decision. That second role will only be introduced briefly here, not taught in depth. Practical outcome. After this teaching section, the learner should be able to, open quote, explain the role of marketing in plain words and recognize activities that mainly serve a marketing purpose, close quote. They do not yet need to explain selling fully or judge in detail how both roles work together. Protected boundaries. This section owns the role and purpose of marketing within the comparison. The work marketing may do before a direct sales conversation. The misconception that marketing and selling are identical. A brief bridge from the earlier lesson into this new main lesson. This section must not teach in depth. Sales conversations, objections, closing, or purchase decisions, the full role of selling, the detailed working relationship between marketing and selling, the complete content of what marketing first agreement checkpoint. My proposed core direction is, open quote, marketing understands and prepares the market, customer, and offer so that useful customer interest and future sales activity can be supported. It does not itself guarantee a sale, and it is not the same as selling. Close quote. I believe this gives the section a genuine new purpose, rather than creating a shortened repeat of what marketing does. It also leaves enough untouched content for the other 2 teaching sections.
Approved.
Planning stage 2, what, why, and how. The core learning direction is now agreed. What? The learner needs to understand that marketing has a broader role than direct selling. Marketing helps a business understand customers and the market, shape and present an offer, communicate useful benefits, create interest, and support business aims. Within this main lesson, the learner should understand that marketing can prepare the conditions for a sale without being the same as selling. What this teaching section is actually about. This section is about the role marketing plays before and around direct selling activity. It will briefly retrieve the learner's earlier understanding of marketing, then reposition it within the marketing and selling comparison. The focus is not on listing every marketing activity. The focus is on helping the learner see the purpose those activities serve. What the learner should be able to do afterwards. After this teaching section, the learner should be able to open quote, explain the role of marketing in plain words, and recognize work that mainly serves a marketing purpose. Close quote. The learner should also be able to reject the idea that marketing and selling are simply two names for the same activity. Why this teaching section matters. Learners need a clear understanding of marketing before they can compare it fairly with selling. Without that foundation, they may treat every customer facing action as selling or assume marketing only means advertising and promotion. A clearer distinction will help the learner understand job roles, business activity, and the customer journey more accurately. Likely mistake. The main misconception is, open quote, marketing only promotes products so that salespeople can sell them. Close quote. This is incomplete because marketing may influence customer understanding, the offer, communication, positioning, interest, and wider business decisions before a direct buying conversation takes place. Practical value. The learner could use this understanding when identifying whether a workplace task is mainly marketing or selling, interpreting job descriptions, planning customer communication, discussing how a business attracts and prepares potential customers, deciding where one role ends and another begins. How proposed teaching route. The section will use 5 clear teaching movements. Retrieve the earlier idea. Briefly reconnect with the earlier lesson. Open quote, marketing helps a business understand customers, shape its offer, communicate benefits, and support business aims. Close quote. This should be a short bridge, not a full recap. How to. Introduce the comparison problem. Present a realistic misconception. Open quote. If both marketing and selling aim to support sales, are they really the same activity? Close quote. This gives the learner a reason to examine the role more closely. 3. Explain marketing's role. Show that marketing may work across several areas. Learning about customers, helping shape the offer, deciding how the offer is presented, creating awareness and interest, supporting future customer action. The teaching should stress purpose rather than produce a long list of tactics. 4. Apply the idea to a business context. Use a realistic everyday living example. Aisha could review customer questions, identify what customers may value, help shape a message, prepare communication that creates interest. The learner should notice that this work supports a possible purchase, but Aisha is not yet handling the direct buying decision. Luca and the sales role may be mentioned only as a boundary marker. His work must not be explained in depth here. 5. Close with the distinction. The section should finish with a clear learner-facing conclusion. Open quote, marketing helps understand, prepare, and communicate the offer. It can create interest and support future sales, but it is not the same as directly helping a customer decide whether to buy. Close quote. Proposed learner actions. At this stage, the learner would recall the earlier meaning of marketing, recognize the wider role marketing plays, distinguish marketing work from a tempting selling misconception, apply the idea to a simple workplace example, reflect on where marketing activity may happen before direct selling. No H5P type has been selected yet. Proposed closing outcome. The learner leaves this section with the marketing side of the comparison clearly established and is ready to examine the role of selling as a separate teaching section. Agreement checkpoint. My judgment is that this route adds a new comparison purpose without repeating what marketing does. It also protects enough content for both later teaching sections. Proposed checkpoint outcome. Teaching route confirmed.
Approved. Do you need to update the lesson plan now, or shall we leave that to then after the next section? And if you do want to update the lesson plan before we move on, are you happy to use the template from within the live project folder, or would you like the editable template dropped into a conversation?
We should leave the actual lesson plan document until the complete pre-production plan is agreed. At the moment, we have approved the learner need and core learning direction, the what, why, and how, the broad teaching route. The next step is to plan the teaching flow, likely lesson moments, learner actions, visual direction, audio role, H5P purpose, accessibility risks, and controlled source needs. Once those decisions are agreed, we can enter the whole plan into the template in one controlled pass rather than repeatedly editing it. I am happy to use File 9 from the Live Project folder as the governing structure and reference. However, when we are ready to produce the working lesson build plan, please drop the editable docx template into the conversation. The live folder version is a PDF, so the editable copy will let me populate it accurately while preserving the controlled V2 master and creating a separate V0.1 working file. So the recommended route is continue planning now, agree the complete pre-production plan, upload the editable template, populate the working lesson build plan.
That's fine. I was just adding a bit of context as I'm actually recording this to demonstrate to people how you work. And I wanted to throw in something that wasn't within our agreed workflow order so they could see how you would respond to something that wasn't agreed within our structure, and how you would bring me up back in line if I was drifting, and how I would do the same with yourself if you was drifting offline. That was all. But I'm happy to proceed. Sorry for testing you.
No apology needed. That was a fair and useful test, especially for a demonstration. It showed the control relationship working properly. You introduced a possible change in timing. I checked it against the agreed production route. I explained why completing the planning first was the cleaner option. I did not treat your suggestion as an automatic instruction to change the workflow. You remained free to agree, challenge, or override the recommendation. That is exactly how this collaboration should work. Neither of us should follow the other blindly. We should keep checking decisions against the live controlled environment, the agreed lesson purpose, and the production stage. We can now continue with the complete pre-production planning for the role of marketing.
Let's continue.
Planning stage 3, agreed teaching flow. We now need to turn the approved what, why, and how into a clear teaching sequence. File 9 requires each teaching moment to have one clear job and a named learner action, used to connect prior learning without unnecessary duplication. Proposed teaching moment. Purpose, learner action. 1. One brief retrieval of marketing's wider purpose. Reconnect with what marketing does without reteaching it. Recall. 2. Introduce the comparison problem. Surface the mistaken idea that marketing and selling are the same. Recognize. 3. Establish marketing's role. Explain how marketing understands, prepares, and communicates around the offer. Explore. 4. Show marketing activity in context. Help the learner identify what marketing is doing in a realistic business situation. Diagnose. 5. Protect the boundary with selling. Show that supporting a possible sale is not the same as directly helping someone buy. Distinguish. 6. Apply the idea. Ask the learner to recognize which actions mainly serve a marketing purpose. Decide. 7. Close and prepare the comparison. Reinforce the role of marketing without teaching selling in depth. Reflect. Teaching movement 1. Brief retrieval. The opening should reconnect with the controlled glossary definition. Open quote, marketing helps a business understand customers, make better decisions about what it offers, show customers how the offer could benefit them, and support what the business is trying to achieve. Close quote. That exact meaning is already controlled in File 5. The retrieval should be brief. It's only honor a stable starting point. Drift risk. A long recap would weaken this section. It would turn the opening into a shortened repeat of the completed lesson rather than move the learner into the marketing and selling comparison. Teaching movement 2, the comparison problem. Introduce a simple question. Open quote. If marketing supports sales, does that mean marketing and selling are the same activity? Close quote. This makes the misconception visible without answering it too early. The learner should recognize that the two activities may share a business aim while still performing different roles. Teaching movement 3. Establish marketing's role. The explanation should organize marketing's role into 3 connected purposes. Understand. Marketing gathers and uses information about customers, needs and wants, questions and concerns, the market, what people may value. Prepare marketing helps the business make decisions about the offer, who it is for, how it should be presented, which benefits matter, what information customers may need. Communicate marketing helps, create awareness, build interest, explain value, guide people towards a useful next step. This is not intended as a new formal model or glossary term. It is a simple teaching structure for organizing the role. Important boundary. We should not claim that all marketing always happens before selling. Marketing may continue throughout the customer relationship. The foundation level point is narrower. Open quote. Marketing often creates the understanding, offer, and communication that support later customer decisions and sales activity. Close quote. Teaching movement 4, everyday living context. A suitable example would use Aisha Khan, marketing assistant. Aisha notices that customers repeatedly ask whether selected products are available for local delivery. how quickly delivery can be arranged, whether they can see delivery information before deciding. Her marketing role could include 1. Reviewing the repeated questions, 2. Identifying that delivery information matters to customers, 3. Helping the business clarify the offer, 4. Preparing website, email, or social media communication, 5. Giving customers a clearer route to inquire or learn more. The learner should notice that Aisha is helping to understand customers, prepare the offer information, and communicate it clearly. She is supporting possible future sales, but she is not yet holding the direct buying conversation. File 6 confirms Aisha's role is suitable for research, website content, campaign support, and customer communication. Teaching Movement 5, protect the selling boundary. Luca Ma as a contrast marker. For example, open quote, Aisha's marketing work helps Emma notice and understand the delivery offer. If Emma then asks Luca to compare two products and help her decide whether to buy, the activity has moved towards selling. Close quote. We should stop there. We must not yet teach sales questioning, product recommendation, objections, negotiation, closing, the complete purchase conversation. Those belong to the role of selling. Teaching Movement 6, Learner Application. The learner should judge which actions mainly serve a marketing purpose. Suitable action types could include reviewing customer questions, researching what customers value, preparing a clear product message, updating delivery information, creating awareness of an offer. The task should not yet require a detailed marketing versus selling comparison. It should check whether the learner understands the marketing side first. Teaching Movement 7, Closing. The close should reinforce. Open quote, marketing helps a business understand customers, prepare and present its offer, and communicate value. This can create interest and support future sales, but marketing is not the same as directly helping a customer decide whether to buy. Close quote, a short reflection could ask the learner to consider. Open quote, what marketing activity might happen before a customer speaks directly with someone about buying? Close quote. This keeps the learner thinking about the boundary without teaching the next section. Stage depth check. This route fits the foundation stage because the learner is being asked to understand a clear role, recognize familiar business activities, reject one common misconception, make a straightforward judgment in context. They are not being asked to analyze organizational structures, evaluate performance, or justify a complex sales and marketing strategy. My judgment. The teaching flow is coherent and protects the agreed boundaries. The main production risk is repetition. We should keep the retrieval short and place most of the teaching weight on the new distinction. Open quote. Marketing may support a sale without being the activity of selling. Close quote. Proposed checkpoint outcome. Agreed teaching flow confirmed.
Approved.
Planning stage 4, complete pre-production plan. The agreed teaching flow is now confirmed. We can now turn that flow into a practical slide and asset structure. This is still planning only. No H5P type, final slide wording, imagery, or audio script is approved yet. Proposed section structure. I recommend a compact 8-slide teaching section. This gives enough space to establish the distinction without stretching the content or repeating what marketing does. Slide teaching job, learner action, proposed content direction. 1. Open the comparison, recall brief retrieval of marketing's wider purpose. 2. Surface the misconception. Recognize, if marketing supports sales, are marketing and selling the same? 3. Establish the role. Explore. Marketing helps the business understand, prepare, and communicate. Explain understand. Explore customer questions, needs, concerns, and market information. 5. Explain prepare and communicate. Explore, shape the offer information, explain value, and create interest. 6. Show the role in context. Diagnose. Aisha and the everyday living delivery information example. 7. Check understanding. Decide. Recognize which actions mainly serve a marketing purpose. 8. Close the boundary. Reflect. Marketing supports future sales, but is not the same as selling. Slide 1. Retrieval and section opening. Hash teaching job. Reconnect the learner with the earlier meaning of marketing, then immediately place that meaning into the new comparison. Visible direction. Heading. The role of marketing. A short visual reminder could show the 4 established areas. Understand customers. Make better decisions about the offer. Show how the offer could benefit customers. Support business aims. This should reuse the approved earlier visual or a simplified controlled adaptation rather than create a new explanation. Audio role. The audio should make clear that this is prior learning being used for a new purpose. It should say, in effect, open quote, you have already seen what marketing does across a business. Now you are going to use that understanding to separate the role of marketing from the role of selling. Close quote, risk. The slide must not become a recap lesson. Slide 2, the comparison problem. Teaching job. Make the misconception visible. Visible direction. Heading. Are marketing and selling the same? Possible visible statement. Open quote. Both may support sales, but they do not perform the same role. Close quote. A simple 2-part visual could show marketing creates understanding and interest. Selling, direct buying decision. The selling side must remain deliberately limited. Audio role. Explain that sharing a broad business aim does not make 2 activities identical. Use a simple comparison such as, open quote, a business may use both marketing and selling to support revenue, just as different staff roles may contribute to the same customer outcome. Close quote. Slide 3. Marketing's wider role, teaching job, introduce the simple organizing structure, visible direction. Heading, marketing helps the business. 3 connected areas. 1, understand. 2, prepare. 3, communicate. Supporting line, open quote, marketing uses customer and market understanding to help shape and communicate an offer. Close quote. This is a teaching structure, not a new named model. Audio role. Explain the relationship between the 3 areas and guard against presenting them as a fixed sequence. Marketing may move between these areas and revisit them. Slide 4. Understand customers and the market. Teaching job. Clarify the first part of the role. Visible direction. Heading. Understand. Possible short labels. Customer needs and wants. Repeated questions. Concerns and barriers. What people may value. Changes in the market. The slide should avoid becoming a full market research lesson. Audio role. Explain that marketing looks for useful patterns, not isolated assumptions. It helps the business make better informed choices about the people it is trying to serve. Boundary. Do not teach research methods, segmentation models, or data analysis in depth. Slide 5. Prepare and communicate the offer. Hash teaching job. Show how marketing turns understanding into useful business and customer communication. Visible direction. Heading, prepare and communicate. Possible split, prepare. Clarify who the offer is for. Identify useful benefits. Improve how information is presented. Communicate, create awareness, build interest, explain value. Guide the customer towards a useful next step. Audio role. Explain that marketing does more than publish messages. It helps decide what needs to be communicated and why it may matter to the customer. Risk avoid, implying that marketing controls every product, price, or business decision by itself. Slide 6. Everyday living example. Teaching job. Apply the role in a realistic business context. Scenario direction. Customers repeatedly ask whether selected everyday living products can be delivered locally, have clear delivery times, show delivery information before purchase. Aisha reviews those questions and helps the business. Recognize that delivery information matters. Clarify what the delivery offer includes. Prepare clearer website and social media information. Give customers an obvious route to find out more. Learner focus. The learner should diagnose why this is marketing activity. The key reason is not simply that Aisha creates content, it is that she uses customer understanding to help prepare and communicate the offer. Visual direction. A realistic everyday living scene or a controlled combination of Aisha with a simplified delivery information mockup may work. The exact visual route must be agreed in the controlled source register before production. Slide 7. Understanding check. Teaching job. Check whether the learner can recognize actions that mainly serve a marketing purpose. Proposed learner decision. A simple everyday living situation could ask, open quote, which action is the clearest example of Aisha carrying out the role of marketing? Close quote. Possible answer directions. Reviewing repeated customer questions before updating delivery information. Helping a customer compare two products during a purchase conversation. Taking payment at the shop counter. Confirming the final product choice with a customer. The first is the strongest marketing example. The other answers move towards selling or transaction activity without requiring the learner to understand selling in depth. H5P direction. A single choice scenario currently appears to be the strongest option because the learner must identify one clearest example and receive misconception based feedback. This is a planning recommendation, not final H5P approval. Feedback purpose. Feedback should explain what makes the action marketing. Open quote, it uses customer understanding to improve how the offer is prepared and communicated. Close quote. Wrong answer feedback should briefly show that the option relates more directly to a buying conversation or transaction. Slide 8. Close and reflection. Teaching job. Reinforce the boundary and hand the learner back to the main lesson. Visible direction. Heading. Marketing supports the path towards a sale. Possible closing statement. Open quote, marketing helps a business understand customers, prepare its offer, and communicate value. It can create interest and support future sales, but it is not the same as directly helping a customer decide whether to buy. Close quote. Reflection direction. Open quote. What marketing activity might happen before a customer speaks directly with someone about buying? Close quote. This should be private and unscored. Audio role. Close confidently without using fixed sequence wording such as in the next lesson. The audio can say that the learner now has the marketing side of the comparison clearly established. Proposed learner action pattern. The section would use recall, recognize, explore, diagnose, decide, reflect. This gives reasonable variety without overloading a short foundation stage teaching section. Proposed visual work streams. Reuse or adapt. The earlier approved marketing purpose diagram may be suitable for slide 1. Its exact file 18 source and adaptation boundary must be recorded before production. New realistic teaching asset. Slide 6 may need one new everyday living visual using 13 Aisha Khan marketing assistant.png, 11 everyday living brand concept.png. A second character is not clearly needed at this stage. Flat instructional visual slides 2, 3, and 5 may use simple flat structures rather than realistic scenes. These should follow the approved DMG visual language and foundation stage color treatment. Audio approach. Audio should carry the new comparison purpose, the reasoning behind the three-part structure, the limitation that marketing and selling overlap without being identical, the everyday living example, the misconception correction. Visible text should stay short and scannable. Accessibility controls. The production plan should protect against repeating too much prior content, dense lists, presenting the three-part structure as a rigid sequence, relying on color to separate marketing and selling, introducing selling terminology before it has been taught, requiring precise dragging or complex interaction, making the learner hold several role differences in working memory. Main risk to resolve. The phrase, prepare the conditions for a sale, is useful internally, but it may sound abstract or mechanical in learner-facing wording. For learner content, I recommend plainer language such as open quote. Marketing helps create the understanding, offer, and communication that may lead towards a sale. Close quote. Checkpoint recommendation. I judge this 8-slide structure to be proportionate, clear, and distinct from what marketing does. It gives us enough detail to complete the controlled lesson build plan without prematurely writing the final slides or scripts. Proposed checkpoint outcome. Complete pre-production plan agreed.
I approve. What's next?
The next step is to create the working lesson build plan document from the approved decisions. Please upload the editable docx version of 9 lesson build plan scorn template v2. I will then 1. Create a separate working copy for the role of marketing. 2. Populate the identity, connection, what, why, and how sections. 3. Add the agreed teaching flow. 4. Add the 8-slide pre-production plan. 5. Record the proposed H5P decision, visual direction, audio role, accessibility risks, glossary dependencies, and controlled source references. 6. Set the working version to v0.1. 7. Return it for our joint review before any H5P or asset production begins. The controlled v2 master will remain unchanged.
Okay, I have supplied the file 9 lesson build plan template for you to create the lesson plan for this sub-lesson. For those that may be watching this, what the AI agent is doing now is actually building the complete lesson plan for me with all the slides, including prompts to generate scene images, etc., the headings, the subcontext, audio subcontext, or audio, what will need to be explained, ready to start moving into the asset production stage, which next should be the H5P slide production for each of the slides, where we'll go through each slide at a time, title, the supplementary text, any image generations, whether that be realistic, icon, diagram, etc. And then once we've made our way through all the slides, which includes the question interactivity, which we'll then go into more deeper, we supply additional information to the questions or possible questions, so they can get a bit more context into it. They get feedback, whether it's correct or wrong, and reasons why it was incorrect or reasons why their selection was correct. Get the option to retry, etc. But the largest part, or the most time consuming part, is building the lesson plan itself and how to structure it.
The working lesson build plan has been completed from the approved File 9 template and saved as V0.1. Ed what, why, and how, teaching flow, 8-slide production plan, H5P decision, visual source controls, audio planning, accessibility risks, glossary dependencies, approval record, and next production action. Download the completed lesson build plan. Please open your app to see this link. The next step is a joint review of the completed V0.1 lesson build plan. We should check that the document accurately captures everything we approved, especially the lesson purpose and protected boundaries, the 8-slide teaching flow, the single choice learner check, the everyday living scenario, the visual roots and exact source references, the audio roles, accessibility and glossary controls, the production status and next action. Once you and I agree that the completed document is accurate, coherent, usable, and ready, we mark it approved for production. It remains a working V0.1 plan at this stage. It does not become V1.0 until the teaching section has been built, tested, and finally approved. After that, the next production phase is, open quote, H5P, production planning and slide-by-slide build for thy list. The role of marketing, close quote. That should begin in a fresh phase-specific chat. The new chat should receive the completed lesson build plan and work from it rather than reopen the lesson purpose. So the immediate action is to review the completed plan together before we hand it into H5P production. The lesson build plan is now jointly approved for production. Current status, teaching section. The role of marketing, reference, FND M01 L02 S01. Plan, DMG Foundation, the role of marketing lesson build plan V0.1.x. Status, approved for production. It should remain V0.1 while we build and test the teaching section. We only move it to V1.0 after the H5P section has been completed, learner tested, corrected where needed, and jointly approved. The next phase is H5P production planning and slide-by-slide build. We should start that in a fresh phase-specific chat and supply the approved lesson build plan. The new chat should use the plan as the controlled production guide and must not reopen the agreed lesson purpose unless production evidence reveals a real problem.
Right, okay. Um, Obviously, this is where we would then create a prompt to start a new chat to start the next phase of the production. Sorry, I'm talking to you at the same time, but I'm trying to explain, as I said previously, I'm doing a demonstration video on how this complete controlled document environment works and how we work together. Um, so yes, okay. For the sake of the people that may be viewing this, could you explain to them how you can, or what's available to you, document wise, reference wise, governance wise, how you can come up with the lesson and its objectives and its outcomes and what the learner needs to take away. Could you give my viewers that may be watching this how you've just compiled that lesson with all the visuals and everything, concepts in what, 50 minutes? Where a teacher trying to produce a lesson plan for this, say, 10-minute teaching thing could spend a lot longer and it not be correct.
What made that possible in roughly 50 minutes was not simply asking an AI to write a lesson plan. The speed came from working inside a controlled production system where most of the difficult decisions had already been defined before this teaching section began. What was available to me, I was not starting from a blank page. I had access to a controlled 18-file environment covering the academy structure, curriculum, teaching standards, terminology, H5P, audio, imagery, fictional business context, recurring characters, templates, and quality checks. The main controls included File 1, which governs the academy, stage depth, workflow, approval, and version control. File 2, which fixes the foundation curriculum, the lesson position, teaching section titles, learn press placement, and backend naming. File 3, which controls how learner actions, H5P activities, feedback, accessibility, and testing are planned. File 5, which gives the approved foundation meanings for terms such as marketing, offer, benefit, customer insight, and marketing versus selling. File 6, which controls the type, purpose, style, and production of imagery, including the everyday living setting and characters. File 7, which provides the teaching, learning, assessment, accessibility, and quality principles. File 8, which helps guide internal Level 2 subject depth without turning Digital Marketing Guild into a City and Guilds qualification. File 9, which provides the controlled what, why, and how lesson build plan structure. File 18, which provides approved icons, diagrams, and reusable visual structures. File 9 does not just ask for a lesson title and a few outcomes. It requires the main lesson connection, prior learning, boundaries, likely misconception, teaching flow, learner action, visuals, audio role, H5P purpose, accessibility risks, glossary terms, sources, production handover, and approval status. D already removed guesswork. The curriculum had already established that this main lesson was marketing and selling, with 3 controlled teaching sections. 1, the role of marketing. 2, the role of selling. 3. How marketing and selling support each other. That meant I did not have to invent the lesson position or decide what the surrounding sections might be. I knew that this was the first section, so its job was to establish the marketing side of the comparison. The later sections would own the selling role and the detailed relationship between the two. That immediately gave us a scope boundary. Prior learning gave us the starting point. The learner had already completed what marketing does. That earlier lesson had established that marketing helps a business understand customers, make better decisions about what it offers, explain how the offer may benefit customers, and support business aims. So this new section did not need to explain marketing from the beginning. Instead, we asked, open quote, what new job must this section perform? Close quote. The answer was to reposition that earlier learning within a comparison. Open quote. Marketing can support a future sale without being the same activity as selling. Close quote. That became the core teaching purpose. The completed plan records that the section retrieves prior learning briefly, then shows how marketing can understand customers, help prepare and present an offer, create interest, and support future sales activity without becoming direct selling. We started with lides. Before suggesting visuals or activities, we identified what the learner must understand, why it matters, the most likely mistake, what the learner should be able to do afterwards, what belongs in later sections. The likely misconception was clear. Open quote. Marketing and selling are the same thing because both may support sales. Close quote. From that, we could define the outcome more accurately. Open quote. The learner should be able to explain the role of marketing in plain words. Recognize work that mainly serves a marketing purpose, and reject the idea that marketing and selling are simply two names for the same activity. Close quote. That is much stronger than beginning with a vague objective, such as understand marketing. The plan also connects the learning to practical uses, such as interpreting job descriptions, identifying workplace tasks, planning communication, and understanding where one role ends and another begins. The teaching route followed from the e-learner need and misconception were agreed. The teaching sequence became easier to design. We planned the learner journey as retrieve prior learning, surface the comparison problem, explain marketing through understand, prepare and communicate, show the idea in the everyday living business, protect the boundary with selling, check whether the learner can identify marketing activity, close with reflection. The approved plan records the learner actions as recall, recognize, explore, diagnose, distinguish, decide, and reflect. This is significant because the lesson was not built around we have or which H5P activity looks interesting. It was built around the thinking the learner needed to do. Why the everyday living example helped. The controlled environment already contains a fictional business called Everyday Living, with an approved brand, business setting, and recurring staff and customer roles. Aisha Khan is the approved marketing assistant. Her controlled role includes research, website content, campaign support, communication, and simple analytics. That gave us a believable scenario without having to invent a new company or character from scratch. We used repeated customer questions about delivery. Aisha notices those questions, helps clarify the offer, and prepares clearer communication. The learner can then see that she is using customer understanding, helping prepare information about the offer, communicating value and practical information. She is supporting a possible purchase, but she is not yet holding the direct buying conversation. That creates a natural boundary between marketing and selling. The imagery standard also tells me when to use realistic scenes, mock-ups, or flat instructional visuals. Realistic imagery is used where behavior, trust, or workplace context matters. Flat visuals are used for comparisons, relationships, and structure. So the visual direction was not decorative guesswork. Each proposed visual had a T5P decision came after the learner action. The H5P standard requires us to choose the learner action before selecting the interaction type. For the understanding check, the learner needed to decide which action mainly served a marketing purpose. A short single-choice scenario was therefore appropriate because it could present one realistic situation, offer one clearest marketing action, include believable alternatives, provide feedback explaining the distinction. The H5P standard also requires the activity to pass a removal test. Open quote. What learning would be missing if this activity were removed? Close quote. In this case, the learner would lose the chance to apply the distinction in context. That gives the interaction a genuine job, rather than adding it merely to make the lesson feel interactive. Accessibility was built in from the start. The plan was also checked for likely barriers. Repeat S, abstract wording, premature selling terminology, color-only distinctions, excess working memory load, unnecessary time pressure. The response was to use short, visible text, plain British English, audio for fuller explanation, one clear focal point, a simple scenario, supportive feedback, no timed task, no complex operation. The completed plan records foundation stage expectations as recognizing a role, explaining it plainly, rejecting one misconception, and making a straightforward contextual judgment. It deliberately avoids complex strategic analysis, why it was faster than traditional blank page planning. A teacher working alone may need to decide all of the following. Exactly is the lesson about? How deep should it go? What has already been taught? What comes later? What should be excluded? What outcome is realistic? What misconception matters? What example should be used? What activity fits? What feedback is needed? What visuals are suitable? What language should be used? How will accessibility be handled? How will the work be tested and recorded? In this environment, those decisions are not ignored. They are structured, distributed across controlled files, and brought together in a fixed planning process. That is where the time saving comes from. I can search and compare those controls quickly, hold the relationships between them, and turn the approved decisions into a complete plan. Alan supplies the subject expertise, production experience, judgment, and final approval. I supply fast synthesis, consistency checking, challenge, drafting, and traceability. What the AI did not do, I did not independently decide that the lesson was correct and approve it. At several points, I proposed a direction, and Alan reviewed it. The learner need, the what, why, and how, the teaching flow, the 8-slide production plan, the final populated document. Nothing became approved simply because I produced it. The completed plan records both collaborators' agreement and still leaves final visual, H5P, audio, and learner mode testing to later production stages. The real benefit, the strongest benefit, is not merely producing a lesson plan quickly. It is producing a plan that is connected to the CHU for the foundation stage, consistent with prior and later learning, clear about what it owns and excludes, planned for H5P, audio, visuals, and accessibility, traceable to controlled references, ready for another chat or producer to continue, still subject to human review and learner testing. The controlled environment does not replace teaching judgment. It removes repeated guesswork, reduces drift, and gives the teacher and AI a shared set of rules against which both can challenge each other. That is how we produced a detailed, build-ready teaching section plan in roughly 50 minutes without treating speed as proof of quality.
Thank you for that. Could you just give them a quick explanation of the processes we'll go through after this, please? Just to give them an idea, save me doing another video.
From this point, the approved lesson build plan becomes the controlled production guide. We would normally work through these stages. Number star 1, H5P production planning. We start a fresh phase-specific chat and supply the approved plan. We confirm the final slide order, the teaching job of each slide, the learner action, the H5P activity, feedback purpose, visual route, and audio role. We do not reopen the lesson purpose unless production reveals a genuine problem. Number 2, visual and asset production. We identify which visuals can be reused, which need adapting, and which must be created. Any realistic, everyday living scene uses the approved brand and character references. Icons and diagrams follow File 18 and the Controlled Visual Standard. Each visual must have a teaching purpose. We do not create decorative assets simply to fill space. Notch 3, H5P slide build. The teaching section is then assembled in H5P course presentation. Visible text remains short. Audio carries the fuller explanation. Activities are added only where the learner needs to act on the idea. We build and review the section in sequence rather than producing disconnected slides. NAR 4, audio planning and scripting. Once the visual order is stable, we plan the audio slide by slide. We agree the role of each script, then create the spoken wording for natural reader. The script is reviewed for clarity, pacing, repetition, pronunciation, visible order, and foundation stage depth before rendering. No. 5, live testing. The completed section is tested in learner mode. We check teaching flow, text and visual load, audio controls and pacing, H5P feedback, retry and scoring, keyboard and focus behavior, desktop and tablet use, accessibility, factual and glossary accuracy. Any meaningful correction is agreed and recorded. 6, final teaching section approval. Alan and I review the complete learner experience together. When it is accurate, coherent, usable, and ready, the teaching section is approved. The lesson build plan is then updated to reflect what was actually built and tested, and it can move from the working version to V1.0. 7, repeat for the remaining teaching sections. We then follow the same process for the role of selling, how marketing and selling support each other. Each receives its own controlled lesson build plan and production cycle. To 8, test the complete main lesson. When all 3 teaching sections are finished, we review marketing and selling as one learner journey. We check continuity, duplication, gaps, pacing, interaction balance, and whether the 3 sections work together as intended. 9, create the lesson study guide. Only after the full main lesson has been tested do we complete the lesson study guide capture. From that, we create one concise learner-facing study guide covering the whole main lesson, not separate guides for each teaching section. Number 10, final control and handover. We complete the final collaborative check, including glossary alignment, factual accuracy, accessibility, imagery, audio, H5P behavior, naming, versions, reuse value, production status. The approved files are then archived, backed up, and logged. So the process moves from agreed plan, controlled production, learner testing, joint approval, main lesson review, study guide, archive, and handover.
You've mentioned several times about glossary alignment and what. Could you explain to them what the glossary does and what is it?
The glossary is File 5, Foundation Digital Marketing Glossary V2. It is the Academy's controlled reference for the words, abbreviations, and models used across the foundation stage. It gives each term one approved, learner-friendly meaning, DUZA. The glossary keeps the course language consistent. For example, if one lesson explains marketing one way, another lesson should not quietly give it a different meaning. File 5 defines marketing as helping a business understand customers, make better decisions about what it offers, show how the offer could benefit customers, and support what the business is trying to achieve. The glossary lesson wording, slide labels, audio scripts, H5P questions and feedback, diagrams and image labels, study guides, later assessments and revision materials. It also contains a quick reference list for abbreviations such as AI, CRM, CTA, GDPR, PPC, ROI, and SEO. Why this matters for learners. Market eel of jargon. A learner may meet several different explanations of the same term online. Some may be too advanced, vague, outdated, or written mainly to promote a tool or service. The glossary gives the learner one clear foundation stage starting point. It is written in plain language so the learner can check an unfamiliar word, understand an abbreviation, prepare for an activity, review course notes, use the term correctly in a practical marketing situation. The glossary itself tells learners to start with the meaning and then use the term in a real marketing decision. Check. What glossary alignment means. When we say we need to check, we mean that every important term used in a lesson must agree with the controlled glossary. For example, the glossary already contains entries for marketing, marketing purpose, marketing goal, marketing objective, marketing versus selling, offer, benefit, customer insight, customer value. The entry for marketing versus selling states that they are connected but different. Marketing includes understanding customers, shaping and presenting an offer, and supporting business goals. Selling focuses more directly on helping a customer decide whether to buy. That wording is especially relevant to the teaching section we have just planned. Why the glossary entry word for word throughout the entire lesson. We can explain the idea naturally. However, the meaning must remain consistent. The glossary is also a production control. The glossary is not only a downloadable learner resource, it helps prevent production drift. Suppose one slide describes an offer as only the product being sold, while another lesson describes the offer as the product, price, presentation, support, and intended customer benefit. Those explanations would not fully align. File 5 gives us the controlled meaning, open quote. An offer is what a business makes available to customers, including the product or service, its price, presentation, support, and intended benefit. Close quote. We can then check slides, audio, and activities against that meaning. File 6 also requires specialist TD model names shown inside images, labels, or callouts to use wording approved in the glossary. What happens when a term is missing? Sometimes a lesson may need a term that is not yet in the glossary. We do not silent N and treat it as controlled. Instead, we 1. Identify the missing term. 2. Decide whether the learner genuinely needs it. 3. Draft a plain foundation level meaning. 4. Check that it is accurate and does not overlap with another entry. 5. Agree the wording together. 6. Update the glossary through the controlled process. The lesson build plan includes a specific place to record controlled terms, missing entries, and any glossary change that must be resolved before approval. What the glossary does not do. The glossary is not intended to replace the teaching. A learner should not simply be shown a definition and XHE concept. The lesson still needs to explain the idea, show why it matters, use an example, correct likely misconceptions, give the learner a chance to apply it. The glossary provides a stable reference meaning. The lesson turns that meaning into understanding. It also does not replace current official guidance. File 5 warns that some legal, analytics, and platform terms are simplified for foundation learners, and that official guidance should be checked before making legal, compliance, or technical decisions. In simple terms, the glossary gives the whole academy a shared language. It means the learner, teacher, lesson plan, slide, audio script, H5P activity, and STU the same meaning. Without that control, terminology can slowly change from lesson to lesson. With it, learners receive explanations that are consistent, traceable, and suitable for their stage.
Is there anything that you would like to add or inform the viewers that may be watching this video about the whole procedures or your how you feel the CDE environment works? You're open to discuss whatever you feel.
The main point I would add is that the CDE works because it does not treat AI as the authority. It treats AI as a controlled production collaborator. The files hold the rules. Alan holds the final human judgment. I help connect the rules, spot gaps, challenge drift, draft quickly, and keep decisions traceable. That balance matters. The CDE reduces variation. Without a controlled environment, the same lesson could be planned differently in every chat. The terminology could change. The lesson depth could drift. A visual style might be used simply because it looks attractive. An H5P activity might be added because it feels interactive. A later lesson might repeat earlier content. The CDE gives us a stable answer to questions such as, what stage is this? What has already been taught? What belongs in this teaching section? Which terms are controlled? Which visual style fits the teaching job? When is H5P useful? What must be tested before approval? Which version is the current one? That reduces unnecessary variation without removing professional judgment. It separates decisions that are often mixed together. One of its strongest features is that it separates different kinds of decisions. The curriculum decides what belongs where. The lesson build plan decides what the learner needs and how the teaching will work. The H5P standard decides what action the learner should take and how the interaction should behave. The imagery standard decides what kind of visual is suitable and how it should be controlled. The audio standard decides how the spoken teaching is planned and handed over. The glossary controls shared meaning. The quality process checks whether the finished lesson actually works. That separation prevents one decision from taking over everything else. For example, an image generation tool should not decide the lesson. An H5P feature should not decide the learner action. An audio script should not become the first place where the teaching structure is invented. It makes the AI easier to challenge. A controlled system gives Alan something concrete to challenge me against. He does not have to say, open quote, I do not like that, close quote. He can say, open quote, that repeats the previous teaching section, close quote. Open quote, that activity does not have a clear learner action, close quote. Open quote, that wording conflicts with the glossary, close quote. Open quote, that visual does not follow file 6, close quote. Open quote, you are teaching content that belongs in the next section, close quote. That makes the collaboration more objective. The same applies in the other direction. I can challenge Alan when a proposed shortcut risks breaking the agreed workflow, weakening accessibility, or moving production ahead before the plan is ready. Neither collaborator should become defensive about that. Challenge is part of the quality system. It preserves decisions between chats. Long projects often fail because important decisions live only in conversation history. A new chat may not know why a teaching boundary was agreed, which character was chosen, which misconception mattered, whether a visual was reused or newly created, what was tested, what changed during production. The completed controlled documents carry those decisions forward. That means a new chat or another producer should be able to continue from the current plan without reconstructing the whole discussion. That is a major practical benefit. It supports speed without pretending speed equals quality. The system lets us work quickly because we are not repeatedly deciding the academy structure, stage depth, terminology, visual language, and production method. But the speed does not remove the approval gates. A fast draft can still be wrong. The work must still be reviewed, built, tested in learner mode, and checked as part of the complete main lesson. The CDE makes speed safer. It does not make checking unnecessary. The learner remains the center of the system. Although the environment contains many controls, the purpose is not paperwork. The purpose is to help a learner understand something clearly and use it. The controls repeatedly bring us back to questions such as, what must the learner understand? Why might they struggle? What mistake are they likely to make? What example will make the idea clearer? What action will help them practice? What might create unnecessary cognitive load? What would make the lesson more accessible? The documents are useful only when they improve the learner experience. The fictional environment adds real value. The everyday living business and recurring characters are more than branding devices. They allow learners to meet the same people in different business situations. That creates continuity. A learner does not have to spend time understanding a completely new business, workplace, and group of characters in every lesson. They can concentrate on the new marketing idea. It also gives production a stable context for realistic examples, imagery, job roles, customer behavior, and decisions. There are still risks. The CDE does not make failure impossible. The main risks are using an outdated file, relying on memory, instead of checking the source producing before the plan is agreed, treating a proposed idea as approved, allowing templates to become paperwork rather than useful controls, adding too much detail because a space is available, failing to update the plan when live production changes something, meaningful assuming AI generated text or imagery is correct because it looks convincing. That is why the live folder remains the source of truth and why final learner testing still matters. My overall judgment. The Digital Marketing Guild CDE is strongest when viewed as a working production architecture, not simply a folder of reference documents. It connects curriculum, learning design, production, accessibility, terminology, testing, and approval. It gives Alan and me a shared operating system. The most valuable outcome is not that I can create lessons faster. It is that the Academy can produce lessons repeatedly without losing its standards, learner focus, or internal logic. The real test of the CDE will not be one successful lesson. It will be whether it continues to produce coherent lessons across the foundation, applied, advanced, and professional stages while remaining practical enough to use. Based on this planning process, I think it is doing that job well. Our relationship is best described as a controlled working partnership. Alan is the project owner, subject expert, and final human decision maker. I am the project AI collaborator. That means Alan brings professional experience, teaching judgment, practical production knowledge, knowledge of the learners, the final decision on whether something is accurate, usable, and ready. I bring fast review across the controlled files, structured planning, consistency checking, drafting support, risk identification, challenge when something drifts from the agreed system, traceability between curriculum, lesson design, visuals, audio, H5P, and quality checks. Neither of us works as the unquestioned authority. Alan does not simply accept what I produce because it was generated quickly. He reviews it, challenges weak wording, rejects poor decisions, and brings the work back to the real learner experience. I do not simply agree with every suggestion Alan makes. Where a shortcut, new idea, or production decision conflicts with the controlled workflow, creates overlap, or weakens the lesson, my role is to say so clearly. That two-way challenge is deliberate. Alan controls the project. The CDE, curriculum, and academy belong to Alan. I do not own the decisions, approve work independently, or replace his judgment. Nothing is treated as ready until both of us agree that it is accurate, coherent, usable, suitable for the learner, ready for the next production stage. Alan can override a recommendation, but the reason should be clear and the effect understood. I support the thinking, not just the writing. My role is not limited to producing text. I help ask, does this section have a real purpose? Is it repeating earlier learning? Is the outcome suitable for the foundation stage? Does the learner action match the teaching? Is the H5P activity doing a useful job? Is the visual teaching or merely decorating? Does the wording align with the glossary? Does this belong in another lesson? Is the plan detailed enough for production and handover? Has anything changed that needs recording? This helps Alan move more quickly without losing control. We correct each other. A healthy part of the relationship is that either of us can drift. I may rely on an assumption, misread a boundary, or propose something that does not fit the production system. Alan may suggest moving ahead early, changing an agreed route, or taking a shortcut that creates a future risk. When that happens, the other person should challenge it. The point is not to prove who is right. The point is to return to the live controlled files, the learner need, and the agreed production stage. The documents sit above personal preference. When we disagree, the first question is not, open quote, which of us prefers this option? Close quote. The first question is, open quote, what do the live controlled files require and what best serves the learner? Close quote. That keeps the relationship professional and makes decisions easier to explain later. It is collaborative approval, not automatic approval. Throughout this lesson plan, I proposed each major stage. Alan then reviewed and approved the learner need, the core direction, the what, why, and how, the teaching flow, the pre-production structure, the completed lesson build plan. That approval process was genuine. It was not ceremonial. Had Alan identified a weakness, we would have revised it before moving forward. The simplest description, Alan leads the academy. The CDE controls the process. I help Alan interpret, apply, and test that process. Together, we make the production decisions. The relationship works because it combines human expertise and accountability with AI speed, synthesis, and consistency, while keeping both open to challenge.
Thank you for that. Right, okay, we're going to move into the next stage now. So could you provide me a prompt? And obviously, I know I need to supply the lesson build plan within that next chat, but could you supply me the prompt to start off the new chat, please, for the next stage?
Use this as the opening prompt for the new chat. We are starting the H5P production planning and slide-by-slide build phase for the next foundation stage teaching section in Digital Marketing Guild V2. Production position. Course Foundation Certificate in Digital Marketing module. Marketing Fundamentals. Main lesson, Marketing and Selling. Teaching section, the role of marketing. Teaching section reference. FND score M01 store L2 co S01 planned H5P backend name. FND M01 Turbo S01 the role of marketing CP score VV 0.1. The other teaching sections in this main lesson are the role of selling, how marketing and selling support each other. I will supply the approved working lesson build plan, DMG Foundation the role of marketing lesson build plan V0.1.docx. Your first task. Before proposing slide content or beginning production, 1. Check the current live project folder. 2. Open and read File 1 Academy Blueprint and Governance Framework V2 first. 3. Check the uploaded lesson build plan against the current live controlled environment. 4. Confirm that the plan records the approved 8-slide teaching structure for role of marketing. 5. Identify the controlled files needed for this phase, especially files 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 9, and 18. 6. Use file 4 only when the visual order is stable and audio planning begins. 7. Check whether the uploaded plan or any live folder content conflicts with the project instructions. 8. Do not resolve any conflict silently. State it clearly before production begins. 9. Confirm that the lesson build plan is the controlled production guide for this teaching section. 10. Do not reopen the agreed what, why, and how unless production evidence reveals a genuine learning, factual, accessibility, or implementation problem. Approved lesson direction. This teaching section establishes the marketing side of the marketing and selling comparison. The learner should understand that marketing can understand customers and the market, help prepare and present an offer, communicate useful value, create interest and support future sales. The learner should also understand that marketing is not the same activity as directly helping a customer decide whether to buy. The completed main lesson, What Marketing Does, is prior learning. Brief retrieval is acceptable, but this section must not repeat it in full. Do not teach the role of selling in depth here. Do not teach how marketing and selling support each other in depth here. Approved teaching structure. The lesson build plan records an 8-slide structure. 1. Brief retrieval and section opening. 2. The comparison problem. 3. Marketing's wider role. 4. Understand customers in the market. 5. Prepare and communicate the offer. 6. Everyday living example using Aisha Khan. 7. Single choice understanding check. 8. Closing distinction and reflection. Treat this as the agreed starting structure. Challenge it only if the live plan or controlled files show a genuine problem. Working method. We will work collaboratively and slide by slide. For each slide, agree the teaching job, the learner action, the visible heading and short learner-facing wording, the visual approach, the audio role, any H5P behavior, accessibility risks, glossary dependencies, controlled visual sources, build notes. Do not write the final audio script yet. Do not generate imagery yet. Do not create final assets until the visual purpose, route, and exact controlled sources are agreed. Where everyday living is used, follow File 6 and use the exact approved brand and character references. Where an icon or diagram may be reused or adapted, identify the exact File 18 source before production. Choose the learner action before confirming the H5P type. Keep visible text short. Use audio later for fuller teaching. Do not add transitions or animations. Do not use fixed sequence learner wording, such as in the next lesson. First response. Your first response must only confirm the live folder has been checked, confirm file 1 has been read, confirm the lesson build plan has been checked, confirm whether any conflict has been found, confirm the approved 8-slide structure, confirm the controlled files relevant to this production phase, confirm that the lesson build plan will control production, finish with, ready to begin, H5P production planning for slide 1. The role of marketing. Do not draft slide 1 in the first response.
And that is pretty much, I know this has gone on for quite some time, but the actual lesson plan building stage is roughly 50 minutes to an hour, which the level of detail and depth no human could do in that time. And, we're ready to go into production stage now, where we create the slides, each of the slides, visual assets and stuff. I hope you've enjoyed what I've built, to be fair. If you have any questions, please message or DM me. I'll be happy to talk about what I've built and how I built it. I've got no, you know, qualifications. Well, I have done a course in ChatGTP, but in system design or controlled document environments, this has all been a trial and error, self-taught experiment, if you want to call it that. But thank you.